Jenny and I met in Paris a few months ago when we were talking about sustainability and recycling. And I had to have her here at Munich Fredricsdotter because she had the most amazing nuggets to share. So I'm super excited, Jenny, that you found a moment to be with us this season. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yes, we have exciting things going on with Renewcell.
So let's dig in straight off. Even though more and more brands have outlined their sustainability goals, some have argued that recycling needs to be incorporated into the current system to make it more circular. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree. We try to create something that is possible to integrate into the normal system, let's say, or the system that we use today, but it will not be enough. We will need to change also. We will need to find new ways of working, new business models, and so on. We are only a part of the solution. We can solve some of the challenges when it comes to recycling and new fibers, but it will not be enough. So we need to change the current system, but also find new ways.
Do you think the industry is ready for that change, or are we still at the educating part?
Well, they need to be ready and they need to prepare themselves because there is no choice. We need to make a change, but of course there is a lack of knowledge in the industry, especially in connection to the man-made cellulosic fibers. I think the knowledge is quite low. Even in Sweden, being a pulp and paper country, nobody knows what viscose is. They don't know it's made from wood, and sometimes it's even wood grown in their neighboring forest. So the knowledge around this type of fibers it's very low, the knowledge, unfortunately.
Why don't you share with the audience about this type of fiber? Because I'm sure some of them are very interested to know what it is, what it does, and why they should adopt it.
Yes, so what we do, we take textile waste, both post-consumer and industrial waste from textile manufacturing. We use waste with a high cellulosic content, and we recycle those fabrics into what is called the dissolving pulp. So it's a pulp made to work in the textile fiber production of man-made cellulosic fibers. So we try to resemble the wood pulp with the textile waste pulp. So our product is a replacement for wood. So instead of cutting down trees, you use the textile waste, which we have in enormous amounts, and make new fiber from the textile. So we try to make a textile-to-textile fiber process. And yeah, the material is viscose at this point. We make viscose staple fibers, and you can use them in the same way as the conventional viscose made from wood. It has similar properties, you use it in the same qualities, the same dyeing processes, and so on. So you don't need to adopt. You don't need to do a different process. You can use, the industry can work as it has always been working. The customer and the designer, they will find a material that they are already familiar with, and the properties are the same.
And what's been the response so far from various companies? Has it been a positive one? Has it been one where they're mystified by the idea of it?
Yes, of course, the brands are all very positive because the textile-to-textile recycling idea is intriguing for all. The industry has been a little bit hesitant because they didn't know how to treat this, if this was a new fiber or how should they work with this new product. But once they started, they saw that it's no difference to the conventional viscose, so it has been well received, I would say. We've been sold out since we started, more or less.
That's kind of good to hear, because it's really hard for people to adopt something they don't know. And like we were saying earlier, it's about education. Once you kind of understand something, you're more likely to adopt it. But I want to talk about some of the challenges and limitations of recycling. With the changing attitude concerning materials and technologies, what are some of the limitations of recycling when it comes to creating a circular fashion future?
Yes, there are several challenges, of course. First, we have the logistic challenge. The textile waste is not always where we want it to be. Of course, the best thing would be if we would be in our backyard, but it's scattered all over the world with consumers in their closet, hidden there for 10 years or something. It's in markets in Africa where the clothes that we don't want in Europe end up. And it's also with the textile producers in their warehouses since a long time. So the waste is gathered all over the world, and we try to find the waste and get it to our facilities to recycle it. The best thing, of course, is to use the textiles that you have, but the textiles that nobody wants, it's better that they come to us for recycling than ending up in landfill or incineration.
So if you're saying all this waste is all over the world, how can we get it to you? I mean, how have you been doing it?
Yeah, we have a great sourcing team, of course. We started to work with the supply chain of the brands that have been supporting us, trying to establish some contacts there. We also connected with the existing value chain for textile waste. There are several second-hand companies, recycling companies, textile waste traders, so we connected with them and signed long-term contracts. We want to create a business for them selling their waste, because the waste that is sellable as a garment should be sold as a garment. We want to take the waste that is in a too poor condition to be used as a garment. Torn, broken, stained, totally out of fashion or something like that. So we shouldn't take the garments that can be sold secondhand. They can have a life on the secondhand market for a few years, then eventually they can come to us.
You said something that kind of stood out to me. You said long-term commitment. I find the fashion and the textile industry to be quite commitment phobic. How are you tying them down? I mean, you know, how are you able to say to them, guys, you have to commit long-term?
Yeah, for the waste, it has not been a problem. Of course, they are very eager to create long-term partnerships because they will supply to us for several years and we will pay them for the waste. So that's not a problem. Of course, with the brands, it's been a different issue because most brands are not used to, or some of them are not ready to commit on fiber level. It's just until recently that brands have evolved and know where their fibers are coming from. In many cases, this has been the decision of their supply chain. They haven't been involved in that actual decision, unless maybe for organic cotton. So it's in very few cases that the brand has decided where the fiber is actually coming from. But it's starting to be more relevant and more accepted by the brands. But it's the first time, so we have to, together with other innovators in the industry, we have to start.
So on the subject of brands, how can we enhance, scale up, and push change forward with them? Because I think a lot of brands are hesitant because they can't imagine it on a massive scale. It is, they always want to dabble, but never commit.
Yeah, well, many of the brands are making bold commitments to change, to source sustainably produced fibers, recycled fibers, and so on. And if they want to live up to their own promises, they also have to take actions. And these actions involve some kind of commitment as well. Nobody, us or other innovators will build massive factories if we don't have any customers waiting. So I think it's necessary.
I want to talk about the EU and legislation. This is something that I'm sure all of you are aware has been a hot topic. So with all these legal measures that are coming forward with regards to textile waste and the government intervening, do you think they're going to be able to make a substantial difference, or do you think it's just noise?
I really hope it will make a difference. We hope to be able to source waste more locally from Europe and Sweden. The collection of textiles in Sweden has been very poor until now, but hopefully with these new initiatives and the new legislation coming, we can source more locally. Instead of transporting waste from Bangladesh or India or somewhere, we would prefer to source locally. So we want to build factories all over the world. So if we can use the waste in Asia for the plant in Asia, it's much better, of course. And we can then feed the European plant with waste from Europe.
You mentioned factories. And she told me today that you have opened your first kind of big factory. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we have been building a plant for the last 10 months. So we're taking over the facility of an old paper plant in the north of Sweden, about 4 hours north of Stockholm. So we have transformed that old paper mill into a textile recycling plant. And it just opened up. We have been using some old machinery, some new machinery. We have optimized our own technology to suit different type of waste. And we just got started. And the capacity of that plant is initially 60,000 tons per year of the pulp, the textile pulp. And we already now announced that we will scale up to 120,000 tons in the same facility.
I was going to ask this earlier. One of the big problems, I'm sure the audience is aware of recycling, is that a lot of garments are made with different fabrics, and they also have your buttons and so forth. How have you been able to jump through that hurdle? Because that's one of the biggest problems with recycling garments today.
Yes. Our technology is built for recycling cellulosic-based fibers, so our main feedstock is cotton. In the small demo plant that we have been running for the last 3+ years, we have taken in cotton-rich textiles. We are taking also cotton-rich textiles now in the beginning of the new facility. So right now we source 95% cotton and 5% other fibers, but our goal is to come down to 90% cellulose and 10% other fibers. When it comes to the recycling, we can take full garments, we can take cuttings, we can take fabric in rolls. It doesn't matter. We have integrated a system where we remove the hard parts of the garments, like buttons and zippers. So they are separated out and can then go for metal recycling.
And just wanted to also ask you with regards to what we were talking about with recycling. Where's my question? There it is. What, in your experience, has, when it comes to partnerships, has that helped you go forward? Because I know a lot of people talk about innovation and collaboration. Those are the two words that kind of always come together. Would you say this is the case, that you need to collaborate, we need to all work together?
Yes, definitely. We all need to work together, that's for sure. We need the support from the brands buying our fibers and integrating our fibers into their product. We need the support from the fiber producers to start using a new type of pulp. They have been working with wood pulp for more than 100 years, and now we're coming with a new type of material that is, of course, new to them, and it's a little bit different, so they have to make adjustments. And of course, we also want to work closely in partnerships with the suppliers of the waste. And in the end, we also work with other innovators because we're in this together. Renewcell will not solve this problem on our own. We need to support all types of initiatives when it comes to textile recycling because there are so big volumes available.
What about digital IDs? Let's talk about digital IDs. This is another conversation that's been happening a lot. If companies should start using digital IDs in order to understand and to kind of know what's in the particular fabric, what it's mixed with. Do you see a future for this type of technology in the recycling business?
It would be perfect if it could be used and if the whole industry could agree on what kind of system to use. It would help the work of our suppliers much easier. We already buy sorted waste, so for us it doesn't make a big difference, but I think for our suppliers it would make a huge difference if they can scan and see what's actually inside the garment, because now when you have a garment, the label might be cut off, it's worn out, the text has faded, and it's difficult to tell what kind of fiber you have within a garment. And there are so many different types of fibers and fabrics out there, and the mixes, it's an endless, there are so many.
Do you see a future where you mentioned that it's time to move on to a different type of fabric, a new type of fabric? Do you think the answer is getting rid of the old and making people adopt the new, or do you think it's much more difficult to do that?
What I see from the brands that we work with is that they more and more talk about making qualities or fabrics and garments that can be recycled with the technologies existing. So they are thinking already from the beginning in the design stage about creating a circular product. They want to create the product that can be recycled with us or with other recyclers. So it's starting to come as a topic. we have a long way to go, but it's coming.
And what makes Renewcell stand out from others who are doing something similar to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that we are at scale. We will recycle a huge amount of waste, and we have quite aggressive plans to scale up even more. So I think we are the largest in our field, and we will continue to grow if the demand is out there.
Many believe that real change can only be achieved when sustainability is accounted for at every stage of the fashion value chain. What are some of the most critical changes we must make to face the future effectively?
Oh, yes, there are so many. But of course...
Give us your top 5.
Yes, I think as a private person, you have to look at your own consumption and see how many garments do I buy? How often do I use my clothes? What do I do with them when they get broken? Do I mend them? Do I fix them? Do I pass them down to a relative or something? Do I make sure that they have a long life? That's what you can do as a private person. As a textile professional, you can, of course, ask for recycled materials to your suppliers or your supply chain. Start using it in your product, even though sometimes the cost is a little bit higher. Think about the circular possibility in the garments. Don't make crazy mixes that nobody can recycle, because technology will develop, but we still have to adapt to the system that exists today. We cannot create too many products that could be recycled in 10 years if it will work. We need to make products that are good quality and can be recycled.
I think, the idea of getting brands to adopt a material that's a bit more friendlier to the planet has proved to be quite a difficult task. A lot of brands are not familiar with it, and I think it starts with education. What are your thoughts in terms of educating future designers, universities maybe educating their students, maybe you even going in and talking to the students? Do you think this is something we should do as an industry, start educating from the beginning as opposed to trying to educate only just from the top?
Yeah, definitely we should. When I studied textile science way back, it was not even on the agenda. You didn't speak about circularity or sustainability or water use or anything. So already today is much better than it was in the past. But also when I studied man-made cellulosic fibers were mentioned during 5 minutes or something, during the whole course. So we have to learn more and teach the students. But I think also we have to teach the consumers in general about fabrics, the impact it has on the climate, how they are using it, and so on. We have come quite far when it comes to other materials and food, for example. Organic food is top of mind for many consumers, and I think we need to go the same track when it comes to textiles.
You mentioned food, and I feel like a lot of research goes into what we put in our body. They make sure that it's healthy for us. They give us all the information, what's in the product. Do you think this is something that can happen within the textile industry, be able to be that transparent about what's in a material?
I don't know, but I hope so. That would be amazing.
The reason why I asked this question is because when you mentioned that it'd be really I think we spoke about transparency and whatnot and the whole supply chain, I quite like the idea of having an ingredient list on a garment. And I kind of wanted your own personal opinion on that, whether you think this is something that's viable or is it something that's just good on paper but will never work in reality?
No, but I think it's not too far in the future that we will have a CO2 emission labeling on products in general. So that, of course, includes also textiles and the garments.
And where could consumers learn about it? Because I know you mentioned consumers earlier. If the average Joe on the street wanted to know about it, where could they go and learn about what Renewcell is all about?
Yeah, of course, about Renewcell, they can go to our web pages and look into our social media. But I think here the brands has an important task to inform their consumers about the innovations that they are using, what's good about it, and write about the innovations that they are actually using. So I think the brands have an important part in educating the consumer.
Certifications have played a key role for loads of brands trying to showcase that, you know, we're doing good. Look at us. We've kind of got these certificates. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm always a little split about it. I think it's great, but also I see the other side of certifications, that I feel like it makes brands feel quite comfortable that they've got their little certificate, that they don't need to do anything more than that. So what's your opinion on certifications?
Well, yes, it's for us. We are now certified. We have the RCS certification for the pulp and also the fiber, and it's good because it gives some kind of security when it comes to the traceability. Right now, it's not possible to GRS certify the viscose fibers, which is a little bit unfortunate. I wish that we could, because it will be a different level, because the RCS is only about the traceability, really. We need to also certify on environmental issues, water use, social standards, and so on. So it's good, but it's complicated, and for us as a company, it's also heavy administrative parts involved.
What advice would you give to our audience if they want to really kind of dive deeper into this topic of recycling textiles and so forth?
Yeah, well, send me an email. No, but of course, look into your supply chain and see where you're sourcing from. What fiber producers do your mills use? Where is the material produced? What kind of pulp is inside of the garments? Is it FSC certified pulp, or is it actually rainforest pulp coming from endangered species areas? It's quite common. Very little of the man-made cellulosic fibers are certified, so there are many ways to make better.
Before I kind of left 10 minutes at the end of our conversation for questions. I've got a few more questions for Jenny, but I wanted to hand it over to the audience, just so I leave enough time for questions. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask Jenny? Yes, the lady. I'm going to come down to you.
Hi, thanks for the conversation and the interesting topics. I have a technical question. Is it also possible for you to recycle man-made fibers back into new fibers, or is it the cotton fibers that are recycled back?
Yes, the technology works also for the man-made cellulosic fibers. So we are starting now to work on the process. We need to fine-tune a little bit the technology. So I think the plan moving forward is to run mainly cotton in the big plant, and then for the small demo plant we can work more on the man-made cellulosic fibers. We did a cooperation with Levi's that was released in January. Those materials are 60% cotton and 40% viscose, made with circulose, and we managed to recycle this quality, so it's working also.
Any other questions? Of course.
Thanks. Is there a loss in quality when you do this recycling of the man-made fibers into new fibers? Do you need like virgin input to get the same quality?
Not really. You can do up at least 7 times with the same quality on the fiber. Of course, in practice, it will take very long until we take in only the fibers that we produced. So we feel it's quite safe, but there will always be a flow. It's a mix of virgin and recycled, but we'd be happy to also take in like mechanically recycled cotton. It's not an issue. We are not dependent on the quality of the cotton. It's the cellulose inside, so we can take short fibers, weak fibers, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll hop back on stage. Okay, I think that's it. If anyone's got any questions for Jenny? Oh, there's a gentleman over there.
Thank you very much for the conversation. The question is, you said that, I mean, you are using cotton-rich waste as a feedstock. So you also said up to 95%. So let's say the rest fraction is elastan, for example. So how does it affect your process? Does it decrease the quality or the efficiency of your process? And how you get that 5%, the other fiber input as an output?
Yes, so our process is made with the fiber separation step, where we separate the cellulose from other fibers. And the cellulose is going into our pulp, and the waste, let's say, or the remaining part is synthetic fibers and dye stuff mainly. Right now, this is used for energy recovery, so we put it into bricks and we burn it, actually. We're trying to find somebody interested in recycle the synthetic part that we take out. But we haven't yet found anyone, but if you know somebody who could be interested in the waste stream of the synthetic fibers, we'd be happy to discuss.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I missed that part. You're using cotton waste, like waste straight from the factory, or any kind of garment involved where it's already finished and dyed and where all the processing is already done?
Yes, so we take both cutting waste from the garment suppliers mainly. We can use fabric waste from different operations like dyeing, weaving and so on. So it doesn't matter from where in the supply chain we take it. We hope down the line now, with the increased collection of waste in Europe, mainly being focused on post-consumer waste, we hope to be able to process more and more post-consumer waste. So it's perfectly fine for full garments to come into our plant.
But does the finishing part on the already waste infect your process? Because there's a lot of dye stuff in finishing, like when they do different coatings. I mean, there's a lot, or can be a lot of chemistry involved. And yes. How do you know what kind of chemistry is on the waste?
We try to avoid heavy, how should I say, treatments, when it like waxing and coatings. That's something to be discovered or worked on further. Right now we can handle most commonly used textile dyes. Also some prints we can remove. But yeah, we have some work to do on the coatings and so on. But the main part of the textiles made are without coatings, so we will not go heavy on the jackets, but we can recycle jeans, t-shirts, shirts, hoodies, I don't know, these kind of products, it's fine.
And you do that in Sweden?
Yes, both our facilities are in Sweden, the small demo plant and the large-scale operation that just opened.
Okay, wow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know where I need to come next.
Anyone else? Anyone has got a question? Okay. I have one final question for you, Jenny, before we close. What does the future of Renewcell look like? What can we look forward to?
Yes, I hope now the startup of the new plant will be smooth, so we can start to supply pulp to our fiber-producing customers in a few months' time. Then we will start with the additional scale-up to reach 120,000 metric tons. At the same time, we are, of course, looking into the sourcing and the supply chain, and we're looking into where should the next factory be located. Should it be like North America or Asia or Africa? So we hope to expand and build several additional plants in other parts of the world.
I'm very excited to see what happens with Renewcell next. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.